the National Football League. And let's preview the New England Patriots. Went till the BetMGM set at 8 and hook. Juice to the over at minus 120. Not too sure about that. The under is even money. To make the playoffs, yes is plus 135. No is minus 165. To win the Super Bowl, the Pats are 40-1 and tied with the Dolphins at 4-1 to win the AFC East. This is the second year for Mac Jones, who was very good in his first year under Bill Belichick. I personally think we're going to see a step back from New England, but are you on board with the Pats or not?
No, I am officially off board with the Patriots. We saw some glimpses of greatness from Mac Jones last year, even against some good teams. If you remember some of those earlier games, what was it, that game that was down to a wire against the Cowboys? I think Mac Jones is a pretty reliable starter. It's just the offense around him. And now some of the coaching staff that they hired, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, what are we doing here? In fact, we saw articles on this where veterans are shaking their head at some of the personnel decisions that the Patriots have made. And in the betting markets, I feel like there is just this general consensus that, oh, Bill Belichick's going to find a way to get it done. Well, at the end of the day, like, you still have to have a good roster. We've seen it in the years where when Cam Newton was the quarterback and they had all those guys opt out due to COVID and those years. You still have to have the players on the roster. So it was an offense that was a little tough to watch at times, where Mac Jones was only throwing a few passes. It's just a team that I'm not ready to buy in on, especially since in the betting markets, usually they get a little more credit than they deserve.
I just don't know who Mac Jones is going to throw to. Their receiving core is super weak. I had to look it up. I'm like, who are the Patriots receivers again? Devontae Parker, Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, N'Keal Harry never worked out for those guys when they drafted him out of Arizona State. And more than that, and we keep talking about this, who the hell's going to call the plays for the Patriots? Matt Patricia? That big guy, that bearded big guy who went to Detroit, was a complete failure, who made a name for himself as a defensive coordinator. He's going to call the plays. And if he doesn't call the plays, hey, don't worry, Chelsa. Joe Judge is there to pick up the slack. Don't worry about it. Joe Judge has got your back coming off that incredible run with the Giants. So you take a receiver, or a quarterback, I should say, who should be good in year two, but he doesn't have a great deal of targets to throw to, and we're going to have questionable play calling, maybe at best. I just don't know how you could back the Patriots here, particularly in this division.
Yeah. Season in Miami against the Dolphins. That is a place where the Patriots traditionally have really struggled. So we'll see from the get-go. The Patriots start the season on the road at the Dolphins, then on the road at the Steelers. It's probably a win there just because the Steelers are kind of rebuilding. Then they host the Ravens. That'll be a tough one. And then they go on the road to Lambeau. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for the Patriots to start the season because, you know, one of the bets you can make is the Patriots to start the season 0-4 or 4-0. If you see a team that you like where the schedule kind of lines up for one of those bets, that's a bet you can place over at BetMGM. The other bets for the Patriots this year, let's just go down the list of betting options. To make the playoffs, yes, plus 135, no, minus 165, win total 8.5, juice to the over at minus 120. Don't like them to win the Super Bowl at 40-1 or the division at 4-1. Jenks, of these betting options, like, is there one that you're chomping at the bit or champing at the bit? We decided that saying was that you really want to take?
Nope, sure isn't. Not at all. I don't want anything having to do with the Patriots at all. And I would say they're not going to make the playoffs, but it's minus 165, so that's too juicy for me. When we were talking about the Eagles earlier, and we'll get to them in a second, it's juiced way to the yes that they will make the playoffs around minus 160. I like that bet because I really believe in what they've done. But here, I just don't see any bets that really appeal to me. And I did want to touch on that New England defense for a second, Chelsea. What are they doing on defense? This is a very middle-of-the-road defense, and even their free agent signings sort of were head-scratchers. They brought in Jabril Peppers to help out the secondary. He might be okay. Wasn't great with the Giants. They brought back Malcolm Butler. That's a name from the past. He didn't even play last year when he was with Arizona. So to me, this comes down to one question, which is how much do you trust Bill Belichick? And a great head coach can only do so much. And then it just comes down to talent and execution. And I don't think the talent is there. I worry about the coaching staff. There's just way too many question marks for the Patriots to me to think, okay, I'm going to put some money on these guys.
Well, you can exact finish of this division from top to bottom. So for me, it would be Bills, Dolphins, Pats, Jets. You can
Yep.
bet on that very thing over at BetMGM because I do think it's the Dolphins that still finish in second place in the AFC East. It's the Bills division to win at minus 190. It's very juicy, but I just don't see any way around it. I do think it's the Bills division. If you look on paper, the stats love them. There's a reason why the Bills are the favorites to win the Super Bowl because they are just that good of a team. Got a great young quarterback who, once again, we're going to make our annual Josh Allen MVP bet, and hopefully it wins this year. It's got to win at least one of these years, right?
If we keep betting it, at some point it's going to come home. You know it's bad for the Patriots when the biggest story of their offseason was when they drafted Cole Strange out of Chattanooga. Remember that video of Sean McVay seeing that live and laughing about it, and then he had to call Bill Belichick and say, "Oh, I wasn't bagging on Cole Strange. Well, we like that guy, like him a lot. A lot of respect for you, Bill." No, I mean
It's
even
just the
their
Patriots committing to a bit. Like at some point, Bill Belichick just like, all right, I got to draft somebody from a tiny school. And if he pans out, people are like, well, that's the Patriots. He's committing to the bit.